G'day Bomber fans, big week of training from the boys, lots to discuss. There was some more match sim on Saturday and it was a really promising session from all accounts. So I'll go over who impressed, how the boys are looking fitness wise. I wasn't at the session but I know a few people who were, and it also helps when the Essendon community is absolutely killing it on Twitter with the footage and photos, so cheers to all those people as well. Let's start with the fitness of the group because this to me is the most pleasing aspect of the preseason so far. We have a functioning group of players. There are only a small handful on the rehab list, and the ones that are there are still a good chance to play round one. Stringer is really close to being back to full training loads. He was playing some hard minutes in the recent session, with a bit of rest as well. Dersmer is ahead of him. I think the main worry for me is Dylan Shield, who probably won't be available until after round one, a few weeks into the year, which is not ideal. But even Sam Draper is running well. The fantastic thing about our list right now is that, aside from Tex Wanganeen, all the young players are fit. A few have been on limited workloads. Perkins was one recently, but they are still set to be fully fit by round one. Cox is in good nick, Reed's in good nick, Jones is looking good. The young players that are always injured around this time of the year are looking good. Look back to this time last year, I remember there being plenty of players sitting out sessions, but right now I would say there are only 3 that have mid to long term injuries that I can think of, and one of them is close to returning. So we are in a good spot. We need to remember how important a preseason is for a player. This is when you want to be fit. You could see a few players coming back that we haven't seen in a while. Think Jones and Reed, that could almost be like new signings. Alrighty, let's talk players. Some players that we should be talking about. I'll start with our back line because that is what is the most promising area of the ground in my eyes. I think for the first time in many years we have serious competition for spots down there. It's gotten to a stage where I'm doubting who starts in our best 22. Mackay's obviously a lock. He's immense down there, but you got players like Nick Cox, who is still training down back. He could be a weapon if he puts together some good form. Kane Baldwin is seriously going to challenge Jaden Laverty for his role. He has had a really good preseason, but Zach Reed, the way it's looking right now, I see our defense shaping up with Mackay and Reed down there. He is in terrific shape. He looks a lot stronger, looks a lot fitter. He finally has a partner that he would be able to rely on if he was to play as well. I don't want to jinx anything right now, but I think it's Reed's year. I seriously think he could break out. I'm excited just thinking about what he could play like with help from Ridley and Mackay and a full preseason under the belt. I don't want to get too hyped because his body has a way of letting him and us fans down, but it's so promising. And I haven't even mentioned Lewis Hayes, who is also having a really good preseason. He's not really in the discussion for a first team spot yet, but he is progressing really well for the future. He looks a lot bigger and better in the contest, so I'm keen to see him in the resis. A lot is being talked about with our defense, but up forward there is plenty to like as well. Gresham is great. He's really going to change the way we look going forward. Since Tippin Woody's injury in 2021, we haven't really had a good small forward, but Gresham gives us so much creativity and class up there. He isn't just a role player like Guelphy and Menzies and even like Snelling was. He is someone I can see having a real impact on games. But the great thing about our forward line is the fact we have real competition for spots with the keys, a bit like defense. There is more to our squad now. A few weeks back, Caddy was seen as a lock to start round one, but now Jones is arguably ahead after a really good match sim. You got 2 young forwards in really good shape, putting together really good training performances. It gives us fans reason to believe we can be more of a threat going forward this year. So we got Wright and Langford, partnered by Caddy or Jones. I still don't know who we'll line up with. Then you got Sam Wiedemann as backup, who was poor last year but still kicked a bag of 5 in one game. Jaden Hunter is around as well, but I think a long way off the others. And the great thing about our forwards is the fact that they give us different strengths. Caddy and Jones aren't similar players, even though they're battling for that third key forward spot. Jones is more of an aerial threat. Caddy is much more mobile and effective on ground level. Wiedemann and Hunter give you more strength, so it's good to have, or that we have a few playing for spots. It gives us different options to line up with. Some individuals to discuss. Sartas is still working hard on his ball use. It's his big flaw in my eyes, and I probably want to see him improve a decent amount before he's back in the first team. Keep in mind he was playing last year when we had a few injuries. He's not in my best 22 yet, but with some cleaner kicking he definitely could be. The Davies are looking like fun. Fans are finally seeing more of Jaden, which is good. It's hard not to get them confused sometimes, but Jaden is more of a natural forward. He also has a left foot rather than a right to make it easier to distinguish them. Heppel is in good nick, Goldie's in good nick, who else is old? Jake Kelly looks ripped, and he has been very active in training, which leads me to believe he's right in the mix for round one in Scott's eyes. I just hope if he does play, it's a defensive role, because I really did not like his wing footy. I don't really understand that one. And Nick Martin, speaking of wing, he was roaming around in defense again. I still don't know know how much we need to read into that move. I think if he is still here by the end, or by the time our practice games come around, then it's a serious switch up and he could be playing on a halfback flank in 2024. Some other things to note before I go: we have some academy boys around the joint. I had a recent video highlighting the NGA class of 2024, and really the ones I had anything to say about were Isaac Kako and Jaden Ewan, who are both in line to earn a draft spot potentially, so they are floating around trying to impress Scott and Rosa. We also got to see new VFL signing Jack Paris. He was delisted by St Kilda last year. He was training for a list spot with Gold Coast, but has now signed with our reserves. He joins a few other former AFL players, so he will probably be after a mid-season draft spot if he plays in the VFL. Many considered him unlucky to be delisted. But that's about it, really. Let me know if you have anything to add. The season's coming up pretty soon, only a couple of months away. Pre-season games are right around the corner, so stick around to hear more Essendon news as we lead up to them. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and go Bombers.